Welcome to Nutritional Medicine by Lab Analysis. My name is Dr. Cyrus Thomas. I've been a chiropractic physician for 34 years. Chiropractic physicians are fully trained in doing blood work, urine analysis, and the like. We are primary care physicians, and I also have a diplomat with the National Board of Homeopathic Examiners, as well as a medical doctorate of homeopathy from India. That's actually a big one. Who is this show for? It's for people who suspect that maybe the answer lies in natural medicines. You know, a lot of people have come to think that there's only one type of medicine. There's really quite a few branches of medicine that we have, such as herbology, acupuncture, chiropractic, naturopathy, nutrition. It's not only pharmaceutical medicine, and we're going to go into the difference in a little bit between pharmaceutical medicines and natural medicines. This show is for people who want to not feel stuck with feeling toxic and who want to avoid surgeries later in life. You know, we've come to expect that that's normal, but it does not have to happen. It doesn't happen for many people. This show is for people who suspect that nutrition doesn't just mean shopping in the health food store, that at its deeper level, when utilized as a medical science, it has much to offer them. This program will show you how a safe way to take nutrients and how to cure chronic ailments. This safe way is based on blood tests, and the doctor has a way to follow up to know the effectiveness of nutritional medicines by doing follow-up blood tests. This is a safe way based on blood tests, and it is the retesting and the comparing the new results to the previous results that makes a great difference. Today, we're going to talk about nutrition for pathogens and how the immune system deals with that. There are a lot of bugs in the body, and we've got to take care of them on a daily basis. If we don't, and we let our nutrition decrease enough, eventually our immune system can't do the job of defending ourselves very well anymore. And eventually the pathogens can take over. This is a theory for chronic disease. We're going to be talking about a way to eat to prevent that. This way goes by different names. It can be called, one, the Pacific Island diet, the ketogenic diet, the paleo diet, which is also a pre-agriculture diet, and a pre-cereal grain diet. It can be called a high plant, low carb diet, or a no toxic food diet, or a ruminant diet, because essentially it leads to the same ratios of fats, carbohydrates, and proteins in the blood that ruminants, which are like sheep and cows, have. They have special enzymes that can digest fats. We're talking about a diet that is 35% meats and oils and 65% plants if we do it by weight. If we do it by calories, we're saying 85% fat, 15% protein, and 20% carbohydrate. We have to worry about malnutrition, we have to worry about toxins, and we have to worry about pathogens, today's topic. 4 different types of pathogens: bacteria, viruses, fungi, and protozoa. There are 44 essential nutrients whose lack produces malnutrition. There are thousands of toxins in most diets, and there are 300 pathogens that produce disease. We have our work cut out for us to stay alive here on this planet. Here are some toxins. Gluten, found in all grains except for rice. Most grains have opioids, which are peptides, and these opioids create addiction. They also have wheat germ agglutinin, which is a grain lectin. They also have alpha amylase inhibitors. Rats fed this will show digestive and growth problems. Beans have a lectin called phytohemagglutinin, and that blocks stomach acid in humans. Soy and legumes are high in phytosterols, which can produce heart disease, tendon, and liver damage. Fructose and vegetable oils are other great culprits that are toxins as well. So we have to be careful what we eat. And you notice most of what we're talking about here, soy and legumes, beans, and all these grains, are all foods that have come about and that we had started eating when mankind began to live in cities. And so he had hunted out all the area around him. He couldn't be a carnivore anymore. He had to begin to eat grains and legumes. This was 6,000 years ago, but the cell alone was developed 2 billion years ago. So the basic physiology of how we take nutrients into our body and how we produce energy is 2 billion years old, whereas grains and legumes are only 6,000. Whoops, I'm sorry, I wanted to cover something on that page again. We have over 1,000 species of bacteria in us, 100 trillion bacteria weighing 2.5 pounds. There are 10 bacteria per cell. Bacteria are very small, much smaller than cells. That's why we can have so many. The Alaskan Eskimos had 94% of cytomegalovirus. 90% of them had tested positive for herpes simplex 1, 38% for simplex 2, 80% for H. pylori, and 42% for C. pneumoniae. Pathogens are pretty much everywhere. Are diseases caused by chronic infections once the immune system can no longer put up a good defense? Does the pathogen cause the ailment, or is it just opportunistic? Well, it's actually just opportunistic. A pathogen wants to stay alive, of course, and if you give it an environment in which it can stay alive, it will stay alive and it will proliferate. That's normal for any living thing. So they're not really diabolical, they're just opportunistic. In Parkinson's, there's a pathogen called nocardia. For amyotrophic lateral sclerosis, the cyanobacterias. For schizophrenia, Toxoplasma gondii. Mood disorders, Toxoplasma gondii again, and also the same for cognitive impairment. These pathogens have been linked to all of these diseases. Symptoms of chronic infections are cardiovascular disease, dementia, memory loss, neuropathy, loss of balance and falls, grouchy old man syndrome, cold intolerance, inflamed and arthritic joints. Will antibiotics help? Obviously not. Why? They're still here, these diseases. They're considered chronic and incurable. These ailments are all considered incurable. We must support our immune system and create our own antibiotics. Our own antibiotics. That's like the immune system. It's constantly in us, it's constantly working, constantly fighting. When we need to take antibiotics from an exterior source, it means our immune system has slipped, that we're not doing the job. And the thing that makes the immune system not work so well is faulty diet. So we need to do testing. We do some testing, we find out what's wrong, and then we can go after the problem. We can make the proper prescription of nutrients, the proper diet, proper homeopathic medications. So let's look at diets that aid the immune system. You want to keep the blood glucose and the insulin low. You want to lower omega-6 and optimize omega-3 intakes of the polyunsaturated fats. You want to avoid toxic foods. Now again, that means grains and legumes because they have all of those toxins I showed you earlier. You want to optimize vitamin D levels, supplement with high-dose iodine from about 1 to 50 milligrams. In fact, Dr. Georgi used to give 770 milligrams for acute cases. So we have quite a history on the giving of iodine. You want to restrict proteins or you can end up in protein toxicity. You want to have regular short fasts in order to give your liver time to rest. We want to do an herbivore strategy, which can, if a person has chronic disease, we want to do an herbivore strategy, which is to reduce carbs to 400 to 200 even calories per day. okay? And we can also do longer ketogenic fasts to do cellular cleansing. Sleep and melatonin is important, and one needs to relieve stress. Here are 3 strategies. The omnivore, which means you can eat both a lot of plants and animal products. Omni means both. Coconut oil and fiber are increased in this diet. The herbivore strategy is to do slight undereating of glucose to force the synthesis of glucose from protein. In a carnivore strategy, we do 400 calories of simple carbs, low amount of protein, there is no fat restriction, and we use coconut oil. It is the Pacific Island diet completely. So depending on what your ailment is and your body type, that depends on the strategy that we'll choose. In the herbivore strategy, it is good for epilepsy, schizophrenia, bipolar disorder, depression, psychosis, and migraines. It's also good for solid tumor cancers, diabetes, and metabolic syndrome, good for obesity, and bacterial infections of the brain and nerves. In the herbivore strategy, we eat 200 carbs of calories a day. It equals 200 less than we need, forcing the production from proteins, hence lowering proteins. Now, we've known for a long time that when you lower a person's protein, not dramatically, but just enough, they live longer in every country where this has been looked at. You also eat 400 calories from protein per day. You choose proteins with leucine in it for this strategy. And you can do 12 tablespoons or 6 fluid ounces of coconut oil per day. And you have to watch the vitamin C, B6, biotin, and selenium. Parasites. Boy, there's a pathogen for you. I'm going to read all of this, so let's zoom in on this page. According to a recent study, 85% of Americans have at least one form of intestinal or organ parasite feeding off their bodies. There are at least 1,000 varieties, but there are 2 major groups of parasites. There's protozoa, which are single-celled parasites, and there are worms. Now, there's another 2 ways to categorize them. Ectoparasites, they live on the outside of us. Examples are lice, bedbugs, and scabies. The other are endoparasites, and they live inside us. Giardia, malaria, trichomonas, Chagas disease. Common worms are pinworms, tapeworms, roundworms, and liver flukes. These worms can grow up to 30 feet in your intestines, survive for up to 30 years, and with each segment capable of producing, they have been known to excrete up to 1 million eggs per day. We actually have 4 different protocols for combating parasites using systemic formulas. Depending on the size of the parasite, whether it is large or small, or microbial, microscopic, or whether it's actually inside the cell itself. How do we know which diet is right for you? By testing. Let's talk a little bit about testing. I'll go through this quickly. We're going to do medical analysis using testing, and we're going to treat with nutrition. The blood test is 52 elements. Yellow is a warning, red is high risk, and blue is like a code blue. White is normal. So this person was tested over here. They had quite a bit of blue, yellow, red, all the way through. About 6 months later, they were retested, and mostly everything was white and yellow with 1 blue. So they made great progress. This is a close-up of it, warning, high risk, and critical. And you can see that these values will change dramatically when a person gets on a nutrient program that is individualized to their needs. We use a very narrow range of what we consider healthy. Many people exist in this range from here to here, where they're essentially called normal by most doctors, but they're not. We call it a functional low and a functional high. People can feel pretty crummy when they're in these ranges, but they're told everything is normal. We are more strict, and rightfully so. What is a nutraceutical? The definition is it's an extract of a food with a medicinal effect on human health. The nutraceutical is usually contained in a medicinal format such as a capsule, tablet, or powder in a prescribed dose. More rigorously, a nutraceutical implies that the extract or food is demonstrated to have a physiological benefit or provide protection against a chronic disease. A nutraceutical is a medicine. It's just natural. Of the different modalities of care, structural, molecular, energetic, and talk therapies, what we're talking about here mostly is the molecular, which is food, nutraceuticals, herbology, and drugs. These are molecules that go into the body. In structural care, we're working with massage and chiropractic. In energetic care, we're using homeopathy, electricity. And with talk therapies, of course, we're listening to a psychologist, we're watching television, we're at a lecture, we're in a self-help class, we're getting it all through someone else communicating with us. Let's take a closer look at molecular. These are food, nutraceuticals, herbs, and controlled drugs. These are all chemicals. They all go into the mouth and to the intestines and then to the blood and then into the cells. They all go into the cells and affect the chemistry there. The difference between naturally occurring and controlled drugs is that controlled drugs are patentable and they are at high cost. Naturally occurring substances, all the molecules we use in nutrition, like from food, nutraceuticals, and herbs, they are non-patentable, and so they remain at low cost. And when they're non-patentable, they are not controllable as well. Naturally occurring substances make up for what is missing in our food. They supply what the body would normally require, and they make the body work the way it did before it became ill. Controlled drugs are man-made molecules. They're different than what was found in foods or in healthy bodies. They treat the symptoms. Smart medicine is nutraceutical medicine. In the last 30 years, we've shown an explosion in nutritional knowledge. Nutraceuticals are medicines. They are complex molecules. They are also rather complex medicines because they are medicinal in how they work. Any substance that leads to cure is medicinal by definition. Many of them are enzymes, and an enzyme helps change a molecule from molecule A to molecule B. So, for example, these substances come in to hook up to this large enzyme. The enzyme changes them, and they're able to leave, and they're different. That's what enzymes do. And enzymes can be vitamins, they can be minerals, they can be amino acids. So these are all the things that we prescribe for people in the practice of nutrition. Heavy metals are something we want to rid the body of, and free radicals are in that same category. Don't stop your medications unless you make changes. Make changes first, and after you've made the change, then you can consider a change in medications with your pharmaceutical prescriber. Pharmaceuticals give support, but once nutraceuticals begin to affect a cure, then follow-up blood and hair tests will show that it is wise to reduce them. Change to nutritional prescriptions. Old doctors, mnemonic. If ye don't know where, what, and why, prescribe ye potassium and I, which is iodine. These are some old nutritionists, Pottinger and Royal Lee from Standard Process. This is Standard Process products, just emphasizing the importance of potassium and iodine in diet. Getting the right amount is important. This is my office on D Street in San Rafael. I want to talk for a moment about the importance of using a strategy for getting well. People want to know what's wrong with them. Testing is the best way to find out. They come into the office, we talk for about an hour, and we get an idea of how they're doing, how they've been doing so far in life with different medical conditions. Then we order some tests. We may do a urine, blood, a hair analysis. We may do a stool analysis. We may do a saliva analysis for hormones. We may We may graph the hormones as they change throughout the month for female problems. We might look, we're going to, of course, look at a lipid profile, see how cholesterol is doing. We're going to look at kidney function. We're going to look at the heart in detail, and we're going to look at all the electrolytes in the blood. Once we find out what areas are off, we can prescribe a diet that is specific to the person. We can prescribe nutrients that are specific to the person, which include vitamins, minerals, herbs, amino acids, enzymes, etc. Then the person makes some dietary changes. They take their nutrients daily. They go along for, well, if they have a chronic disease, maybe in a couple of months we'll retest. If they're rather healthy and they're just wanting to tune up, we might go along for 6 months to a year. Then we retest. When we retest, we put the old values next to the new values like you saw on the slide. And we can make an instant comparison and know what elements have progressed and gotten worse, what elements have gotten better, which is usually most of them, and which items have not changed and need to be treated more aggressively or have more attention paid to them, or we need to switch the way we're doing it, because there's different ways that we can practice nutrition. We can be heavy on the herbs, we can be heavy on the vitamins, we can go with whole food nutrients, we can use isolates, which in some cases are good to use in higher amounts. That's called orthomolecular medicine. So we monitor the progress as time goes on, and we see how well the person is doing. Now, while this is taking place, the patient can't help but exhibit their personality as we're doing this process. And so a classical homeopath like myself can listen to the person's personality coming forward in the consultations, in the nutritional consultations, the medical consultations. And we then prescribe homeopathic medicines to help with the emotional aspect of getting well, also with their concepts. Many people are very stubborn or prejudicial or unable to be creative and thoughtful and light and lively in their well-being. So we use the homeopathic remedies to affect this part of the person, which usually nutrition doesn't go to. Nutrition goes more to the blood, and it fixes pathological changes, it improves the immune system, it rids the body of free radicals and heavy metals, it increases oxidation, so you have more energy, you make more energy. But when it comes to the emotions and the concepts, homeopathic medicine is just the granddaddy of medicines for that. Physical medicine, structural medicine, like we looked at earlier, is also very important too. That brings in chiropractic, body work, as well as Alexander technique or Feldenkrais. Those can make great changes for a person. It's also nice to consider acupuncture too. In other words, a holistic view of healthcare. Now, when a person usually says, I'm going to get healthy, they walk into a health food store and they say, I'm going to buy a whole bunch of vegetables, I'm going to start eating vegetables and fruit. Well, we've learned that that's not the way to go to get really healthy. That we have to eat more like our ancestors did, because we have all the data. Mediterranean studies, we have studies on Inuit Indians in Greenland and Eskimos in Alaska. We have studies of many different island groups in the Pacific. So we know what better diets are. Most people don't know what better diets are because essentially their beliefs in food are based on television commercials over the last 25 years. And so they have been corporate interests that have created these commercials and made us feel that we need fiber for our colon, we need granola every morning as a cereal, watch your cholesterol, so watch the eggs, watch the meat. And all of this data has essentially been to sell cereals and grains. To get off of cereals and grains is a lot of work, takes counseling. That's why you need a nutritionist to work with you and to help you find ways to make this come about in your life. But get the proper testing first so that you know exactly in what direction you want to be moving. I would like to thank the Community Media Center of Marin for giving us this wonderful studio to shoot these shows. And special thanks to the crew who made the show possible. Vita Flores. We have Eric Moret with us today. Thank you again. And if you want to know more about what I've said today, or you want to watch some archived television shows, go to www.integrativealternativemedicines.info. That's my rather large website, which has case histories on it. It has discussions on numerous different ailments, Alzheimer's, and all kinds of shows that we've done here before. This show airs Tuesdays at 8 p.m. It can be watched in Marin, but if you go to this website, you'll find out where to watch many of the shows on YouTube. YouTube has all of the programs that we've done here. So thank you for watching today. Hope you'll join us next time for another interesting topic on being healthy, and may you be in good health.